Hey fam, Deep in Inspiration up here. So I've set up my RIVALZ node on the VPS, and as you can see, my node is delegated and it's running, and I'm going to take you through a systematic tutorial today on how you can set up the RIVALZ zNODE on the VPS server. Now, as usual, I have provided a detailed guide on everything that we're going to do on my Medium post with all the commands that we're gonna need. So you do not have to type any command yourself, you just have to do a copy paste and then you'll be good to go. Whether you've worked with the VPS before or not, this tutorial is gonna be a very detailed beginner's guide to walk you through the entire process. Now, the prerequisite to be able to set up a RIVALZ zNODE is that you do hold a RIVALZ zNODE NFT. If you do not hold an NFT, I'm going to take you through a very quick tutorial on how you can grab one using my referral link, which is going to give you an additional 10% discount. Now, just click on the link that I'm going to put in the description section, which is going to bring you to this page. Now, on this page, you can see that my referral discount Deep in Inspiration hub is already appended. Just come up here and click Connect Wallet. Connect to the wallet that you would like to hold your zNODE NFT. Now, after connecting your wallet, you would see that my referral code Deep in Inspiration hub is already applied, and this is going to give you a 10% discount. Just put in the number of nodes that you want to buy, and then you can proceed on Helio to do the payment, after which you would get the NFT appended to your wallet. So now, beyond this point, I assume that you have purchased an NFT or you do hold a zNODE NFT. The first thing that we're going to do is to have a look at what are the technical requirements to set up the node. Now, before I proceed, what I also want to mention is that if you find working with VPS and stuff like that overwhelming for you, you can also delegate your node to a node as a service provider, and my recommended node as a service provider is zNODE. So over there as well, I'm going to have a discount code for you if you want to delegate your node to zNODE. Now, if you want to set up the node on the VPS, the first thing that I always recommend that you have a look at is the technical requirement. Now, as you can see here, for the zNODE, we're going to need Ubuntu 20.04 or higher, Mac operating system or Windows. But what we're going to do is we're going to set up the VPS with a Linux operating system. So what we're going to need is Ubuntu 20.0. With respect to RAM, the minimum that you're going to need is 2 GB of RAM. The recommended is, however, 8 GB of RAM. Storage, we're going to need 128 GB of disk space. The rest is basically a stable internet connection, and node.js we're going to install in the process of setting up the node. So when it comes to VPS providers out there, my recommended VPS is always Contabo, because you get a very good price with respect to the specification of the VPS that you're going to get. So they do have different packages, all with different specifications. So you can see that you have from 2 CPU cores for Cloud VPS 0 all the way to Cloud VPS 6 with 24 CPU cores. My recommended VPS configuration for the zNODE is going to be the Cloud VPS 1. So you're going to get 4 CPU cores, 6 GB of RAM, which is slightly lower than the recommended, but this should work as well. And then you're going to get 400 GB of SSD, which is way more than sufficient to run this node. So if you want to purchase, I'm going to be extremely happy if you purchase using my referral link, which I'm also going to have in the description section. Now, over here, what you have to do is to just select the duration that you want to run your node for. If you are not very confident that the VPS setup is the way that you're going to go, my recommended way is always go for the lower subscription. So you can do 1 month, and then if you realize that the VPS stuff is just overwhelming for you, you can basically, your subscription would be automatically cancelled after 1 month, and then you can move to, for instance, zNODE as your NAS provider. But if you're pretty confident that you're going to be running the node on the VPS, then you can go for a longer subscription of, let's say, 12 months, or whatever you feel comfortable with. So here, just choose the duration, and down here for the region, I typically recommend that you choose European Union, because typically when you choose European Union, you do not pay any extra fees. So here currently they are doing an offer. That's why when you choose United States, you basically get no charge to it. But typically when you choose United States, you're going to have to pay some additional fees. But your node is going to work absolutely fine even if you choose European Union as the location of your server. And when you scroll down here for the storage type, choose 400 GB SSD. Please do not choose the NVMe. First, because you're going to get less than what we need, and secondly, because we do not need that super fast read-write speed for this node. So choosing the 400 GB SSD would be more than sufficient to run this node. And when you scroll down with respect to the image, my recommendation would be to go click on Ubuntu here, select the drop down menu, and go with Ubuntu 22.0. This is a bit of a newer version and would come with additional security patches and stuff. That's why I recommend that you go with Ubuntu 22.4 instead of Ubuntu 24. Now, when you scroll down, this is a very important aspect. So this is where you're going to put in the password that you want to use to connect to your VPS server. So please make sure that you save this password somewhere, because if you lose the password, you lose every access to your VPS server. You're going to have to go to the Contabo console and reset the password, but please make sure that you remember the password that you're going to put in. The username is going to be root. The username with every compatible VPS setup is always going to be root. The password is going to be the password that you're going to use when you are connecting to the VPS server. Now, beyond step 5, I recommend that you leave everything as a default. I'm going to go through so that just in case it changes at your time, that you know what you have to choose. Object storage is going to be none. Networking, no private networking. One IP address is free. Add-ons, you don't need to add any add-on. So when you select everything, just click on next, make the payment, and we're going to go through the next steps. So after you place the order for your VPS, within a few minutes or sometimes hours, you're going to receive an email like this from Contabo. Mine is in German, but the layout is going to look exactly the same irrespective of which location that you are. Now from the email that you're going to receive from Contabo, the only thing that we're going to need is the IP address, because this is the IP address that we're going to use to connect to the VPS server. And then here for server type, you're going to see the type of server that you purchase. This is a template with VPS 2, but in your case, if you're using VPS 1, you're going to see but technically VPS 1 here. Now the username is going to be root. As always, this is always going to be root. The password here, they're not going to show you in the email. The password is going to be the password that you used when you were purchasing the VPS. So now you have purchased a VPS server, you have the credentials to log on into the VPS server. What we're going to need now is an application that is going to connect us to the VPS server. Now there are several applications out there that you can use. If you are using Windows operating system, it's always easy to use an application here that is called Putty. So Putty is a free application that you can download and use. I'm going to put a link to the downloads in the description section, which is going to bring you to this page here. Now if you're using Windows, just click on Windows. Depending on the processor type that you use, just download the right application that is going to work with your PC. After you download the application, it's a very easy application to install. Just install the application, and I'm going to show you in the next stage how we're going to connect to the VPS server using Putty. If you do not want to use Putty, or maybe you're using a Mac operating system, both Windows and Mac have an inbuilt application that you can also use to connect to the VPS server, and I'm going to demonstrate to you also how you can do this. So firstly, I'm going to show you how you can connect to the VPS server using Putty. So this is how the Putty application looks. It's very simple application to use. All you have to do is to come to the section that is called host name and type in root. So root is the username, if you remember, of our VPS credentials, and then use the symbol @ and then type in the IP address of your VPS server. So the IP address is the IP address that you received when you purchased your VPS from Contabo. So I've pasted this IP address, and after that you can leave the port at port 22 and just click on open. So as you can see here, it's using the username root, and what it's asking me now is to type in the password. Now in Putty, when you are pasting in a password or whenever you are typing the password, you do not see what you are typing. So if you have a very complex password, my tip is always to type the password in a very safe location, copy the password and paste it into the console and just press enter. So I'm going to paste in my password and I'm just going to press enter. And as you can see, I'm connected to the Contabo VPS server. Now what I'm going to show you now is another way that you can connect to the VPS server using an inbuilt application for Windows, which is called a Windows PowerShell. If you're using a Mac operating system, there's also an inbuilt application in Mac OS that is called Terminal. How are you going to connect to the VPS server using Windows PowerShell and Terminal is the same with respect to the commands that we're going to use. Now to connect to the VPS server using Windows PowerShell, just search the application called Windows PowerShell and just open the application here. So on the left is the Putty application. I'm just going to leave this running as well, and on the right I'm going to show you how you can connect using Windows PowerShell. Now to connect to the VPS using Windows PowerShell, just use the command ssh space root. So root is the username of your VPS server @ and then type in the IP address of your VPS server. So I have typed in the IP address, and after that just press enter. And then what we're going to do now is type in the password of our VPS server. Here as well, you're not going to see the password, so if it's a very complex password, you can type it somewhere, copy, come into the console and right click. So whenever you right click into the console, whether you're using Putty or Windows PowerShell, it pastes whatever that you have in the clipboard and just press enter. And then as you can see here, it looks exactly the same whether I'm using Putty or whether I'm using Windows PowerShell. So the choice is yours. You can choose whatever application that you want to use to connect to the VPS server. Now beyond this point, I'm going to proceed using an application that is called Temios. This is basically my favorite application because it allows me to save all the credentials of my VPS server, because I have about 20 VPS servers running, and it's very easy for me to manage the VPS server using the Temios application. So I'm going to proceed with Temios, but whatever I'm going to do is in Temios is exactly the same as what you can also do using either Putty or using Windows PowerShell. So now beyond this point, we're going to start technically with the installation of the RIVALZ zNODE. Now, as mentioned, I have provided all the guides that you're going to need, all the commands that you're going to need in my Medium. Now, to begin with, you're going to skip all this section if you are watching the video because we have already set up the VPS server. You're going to start from section 1. Now, what we're going to do first, just come here, copy this command here. This command is basically going to update your Ubuntu operating system. So just paste in the command. Like I said, whenever you right click, it pastes whatever you have in the clipboard and just press enter. So the installation is done. The next thing that we're going to do is to scroll down and continue with step 2. Now, there are a few applications that we're going to require in order to be able to download the Node application and also run the node. Now, the first thing that we're going to install is curl and screen. Just copy this command here, come into the console, paste in the command and just press enter. What this is going to do is it's going to install the curl application and it's also going to install the screen application. Now, in the next stage, what we're going to do is to install node.js. Now, to do so, just copy this command here, right click, copy, come into the console, paste in the command and just press enter. So this is done, and to verify that node.js is correctly installed, we're going to check the version. So we just copy this here, come into the console, paste in this, then let's press enter. And you can see that I have version 20.18.1, which means that I have node.js installed. Now, in the next stage, what we're going to do is we're going to create a screen session. Now, you can think of a screen session as sort of in Windows like a box within which you run. Now, what this means is that, for instance, if you want to run multiple nodes on your VPS server, you can run every node in an independent screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a screen that is called Z. Just copy this command here, come into the console, paste in the command and just press enter. You do not need to call your screen zNODE. You can call your screen whatever you want to call it. You can call it RIVALZ, you can call it whatever name that you want to do. Now, the reason why I use zNODE is that there are two types of node with RIVALZ. There is a R client and there is a zNODE. So just for me to be able to differentiate between the two, that is why I prefer to call it zNODE. And here as well, it's very, very important to remember that it's case sensitive. So that means that if you put in a capital N here, whenever you want to go back into the screen, you also have to make a capital. And that's why I prefer to keep everything in the lowercase. So now just press enter. And then what you see is that it creates a new space for me. So this basically means that I have created a new screen, or I've created a new workspace that I want to install the node. Now, what we're going to do now is to install the node application itself. Now, to do so, copy this command that we have here, come into the console in the new screen that you have created, paste in the command and just press enter. It's going to take some time. It doesn't take that long, but you can see a progress indicator here. That means that the node application is being installed. Okay, so now the packages has been added. So you can see that 4 packages have been added. 190 packages were changed in 16 seconds, which means that the application is correctly downloaded and ready to be used. Now, to run the application or to start the application, what we're going to do is we're going to copy the command zNODE run. Just come here, paste in the command and press enter. And then here you can see that it starts the zNODE application. And here, please pay attention. What we have to do now is to go to this URL here and then delegate our NFT to this node. So this node that we just created has this node ID. So on this URL on the zNODE management dashboard, we're going to connect our NFT to this node so that we can start receiving the rewards that this node is going to be doing. Now, to do so, you can directly click on the URL that we have here. It's basically going to bring you to this page that we have here. Now, the first thing that you're going to have to do is to connect your wallet and connect to your wallet that contains your zNODE NFT. So now I have connected my wallet and then move to the section here that is called licenses. So in my case, you see that currently my delegate status is free because I undelegated before I did this tutorial so that I can do the delegation. Now, what you want to do is to bind the NFTs that are currently in your wallet to this node that we just set up. Now, to do so, just click on the check marks that we have here. If you do not want to bind everything and want to only buy the specific NFT or a specific license, just select that license that you want to bind and do the delegate. But in my case, I want to bind all the NFTs or all the licenses that I have to this particular node, which is 2 in my case. Now, so just check whichever license that you want to delegate your node to and just click on delegate. Now here, very, very important, we're going to need the node ID. So just come into the console, right click or highlight the node ID. So in PuTTY, in Windows PowerShell or in PowerShell or in Terminus, whenever you highlight anything, it copies it onto the clipboard. Now just come in here and paste the node ID, and then here you're going to put in the number of licenses that you want to delegate the node to. In our case, I selected 2, so just put in the number 2 here and then click on delegate. Now, another tip that I want to give you here is that if you are doing the delegation and although you have undelegated your wallet in any case, and then you see that the number of licenses to delegate is 0, just wait a few more minutes. Sometimes it takes a while for the dashboard to refresh to see that you have 2 free delegations. And then once you have this, you have the node ID, you have the number of licenses that you want to delegate, just click on delegate. Now everything with respect to the delegation occurs on Arbitrum, so just make sure that you have a little bit of it to cover up for gas fees. On Arbitrum, the gas fees are very low, as you can see here, $0.01. So I'm just going to confirm this, and then you see that I got a notification you have successfully delegated your licenses. Now I'm going to take a pause here and I'm going to play the feedback from you. A lot of work goes into making these tutorials and stuff like that, so I would highly appreciate if you hit the thumbs up button for this video and also subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it goes a long way to support my channel for me to be able to come up with good tutorials like this for you. I'm going to give you 2 seconds to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Now if you did so, thank you very much for doing so, and let's continue the tutorial. So technically from the dashboard, we have delegated our license. We have to come back into the console and restart the node again. Now to do so, we're going to use the same command that we used initially, that is zNODE run. Now another tip for you is that if you are using a command that you have already used in the console, you can just press the up symbol on the keyboard and it's going to recall all the commands that we've used. So what we're going to run is the same command that we run initially, zNODE run, and just press enter. Now it's very important to rerun the command, because if you do not rerun the command, it does not pick up the delegation on the node end. So currently you can see that it says starting zNODE, this ID is running under license 866 and 867, and this is exactly the licenses that you see here. So 866, 867 is my NFT ID or my license ID. So technically that's the node is running. When I come here and I reload the page, you see that my node is now delegated and the running status is not running, but it's going to change later to running as the node keeps running for some time. Now, so from the node setup perspective, we are done, but I'm going to highly recommend that you stay a bit to learn a few things as well with respect to the node management. Now, before I do so, if you are done with the node and you want to leave the console, make sure that you minimize the screen that is running the zNODE. Now to do so, just press Ctrl A on your keyboard and then press D. Now what this is going to do is it's going to detach you from the screen and it's going to minimize the screen. This is extremely important because it happens most of the time that you might mistakenly type something into the console that is running the node, or with some applications, when you close the console without minimizing the screen, it closes the screen. And this is why I always recommend that before you leave the console, make sure that you minimize the screen. Now if you want to get into the screen, it's very easy. Just type the command screen space -R and then type in the name of the screen that we created. So if you remember, in our case, we use a screen name called zNODE. So when I type zNODE here and I press enter, it's going to bring me back into the screen. If for some reason maybe you forgot what the screen name is, I got you covered. Just use the command screen space -LS and then just press enter. And as you can see, it's going to list all the screens that are currently running on your VPS. And you can see here, the name of my screen is called zNODE. So when I use the command screen -R zNODE, it's basically going to restore. So -R means restore. It's going to restore the screen that is running the zNODE application. Now these are the tips that I have for you. It could happen that there are going to be newer versions of the zNODE applications, and I'm going to teach you how you can update the version and stuff like that. So when there's a new version of the application and you want to update, I'm going to teach you how you're going to do it. Maybe you forgot what the node ID is and you want to show your node ID again. I'm also going to show you how you can do it. Now if there's any new updates with respect to the zNODE and you want to update your application, just come into the console where the node is running, press Ctrl C. So Ctrl C is going to stop or terminate the node app, and then just use this command here, zNODE update version. Put it into the console, press enter, and what this is going to do is it's going to basically update your node to the latest application. In my case, I'm already running the latest application. That is why it says you are running the latest version. If you want to find out what the node ID is, you can also use this command here, paste it in here, press enter, and it's going to show you what the ID of my node is. If you want to check your version, maybe there's a new version and you're not sure if you install the latest version, you can also use the command zNODE -V, and this would also show you what the version of the application is. Now don't leave the screen without keeping the node running. So if I leave my screen now, don't forget that we terminated the application. So in order to see that application is running, you wouldn't see this command prompt here with root. So if you see this command prompt in the screen, most of the time it means that your application is not running. Now to rerun the application, if you remember, the command is zNODE space run. You do not need to memorize this. That is what the Medium post is there for you for. And then just press enter. So before you leave, make sure that you have the screen like that. And you can see that if the node is running, like I said, you don't see this root or whatever it is to input a command. Now this means that my node is running. We can basically minimize the screen by pressing Ctrl+AD. Now that's technically it about how to set up the RIVALZ node on a VPS server. If you do have any difficulty in setting this up, you can join my Discord community. We really help users out there who are facing technical challenges setting up the node. Or you can also go to the RIVALZ Discord server, and the community out there are also quite helpful and would help you in setting up the node too. If you do have any immediate question, you can also put this in the comment section, and I'm very happy to help you out. With that, I say thanks for watching this video and see you in the next one.